Mega Man, a franchise most of us has played in some shape or form. If it's the classics, Battle Network, Star Force, or maybe even Mega Man Soccer. These games are highly liked by their fans, and it doesn't come to a surprise that speedrunners quickly found their home absolutely devastating the different titles with glitches and cool tricks. Today we will be focusing on the first Mega Man game. This is the world record progression of Mega Man 1 for the NES. The year is 2005, and we're in the beginning of the speedrun scene. A speedrunner named Trevor Seguin posts a run to Twin Galaxies. Twin Galaxies is a website that hosts high scores and other achievements. These days, most speedruns are being kept track of on speedrun.com or other sub-leaderboards. Mega Man speedruns, for an example, are kept under megamanleaderboards.net, which is still operational to this day. Trevor's run was 24 minutes long, and is the first speedrun of Mega Man 1 that has been documented over on the internet. So, first of all, what is a Mega Man? The core gameplay of a Mega Man game is that you can play the first levels in any order you want. This opens up a lot of ways to beat the game, getting the level's boss weapon and using it against other enemies or other bosses. So now that you guys know what Mega Man is about, let's get right back into the action. Trevor starts out this run with Gutsman. There's a good reason for this, and we will be getting back to that a little later in the video. He plays through Gutsman stage pretty normally, as everyone usually does, besides not using the select pause glitch. This pause glitch is used to stop knockbacks from enemies and pauses weapons on screen. When being used against a boss, it will continue to hit the boss for as long as the weapon is inside of their hitbox. The boss's iframes do not freeze when pausing the game with the select button. This glitch was banned during Trevor's run, as it were a Twin Galaxies submission, as they don't allow glitches in their submissions. Trevor then continues over to Cutman stage, where he plays through the stage without anything ordinary besides playing the stage quite well. He then kills Gutsman using Gutsman's weapon, throwing 2 stones at him, killing him quite quickly. Next up, Electman stage. This is where the current rule set shows in the run. In this stage you can pick up the Magnet Beam, a weapon which helps you a lot with the movement in the game. There's 2 ways of collecting the Magnet Beam. Right now we're going to talk about one of them. Using Gutsman's weapon, you'll be able to move the blocks that are stopping you from grabbing the Magnet Beam. So Trevor thought, if he needed to fight Gutsman, he could do Gutsman first and then use his weapon against Cutman. Electman is also weak against Cutman's weapon, so the whole route just falls together quite nicely. Trevor then slowly makes his way to Iceman stage. Iceman stage is where we start to see the heavy usage of the Magnet Beam. In the start of the stage, there is a long screen that you want to traverse underwater while jumping over flying penguins. This is where the Magnet Beam first shows up in the stage, with Trevor using the Magnet Beam to traverse over the water, saving time from slow down movement in the water and platforming. He then resumes to have the Magnet Beam equipped as he enters the Yoki block area. Then he uses the Magnet Beam to skip doing the Yoki blocks altogether, as they are slow to wait for. After that, he resumes to use Magnet Beam over the long pit, where you're supposed to jump over the moving platform enemies. Fun fact about these enemies is that their hitbox is pretty janky, so it's pretty easy to get hit even if you're right on them. He then does rest of the stage and gets to Iceman, where he uses Electman's weapon and gets Iceman down pretty fast. With the ice-cold determination, Trevor makes his way to Fireman stage. In the start of the stage, Trevor switches to Elect to get rid of the floor shooters as they can become a real pain. After this, he changes to Ice to make use of the frozen fire pillars gimmick, where if you freeze a fire, it becomes a frozen pillar that can be used as a platform to traverse the level faster. After he has reached the checkpoint of the stage, he then switches to Magnet to get over the floor enemies and the small pits easier. He then changes to Ice again and freezes the 2 fire pillars right before the boss door. Then he presumes to fight Fireman with Iceman's weapon. This fight is pretty straightforward, just learning Fireman's pattern is easy enough. After beating Fireman, Trevor makes his way to the last Robot Master. Next up, Big Bombman stage, another heavy use of the Magnet Beam, which starts in the first long screen where Trevor uses it to get over all the platforming and enemies without any hassle. He then decides to save ammo and changes to Ice to freeze the Sniper Joe in the middle of the air, and then being able to go under him. He then continues to the next long screen in the stage and uses Magnet Beam to traverse over all of that as well. When he reaches Bomb Man, he changes to Fireman's weapon and gets rid of the last Robot Master. With all of the Robot Masters beaten, Trevor is ready to fight the 4 Wily stages. Wily 1 starts out with Trevor changing to Ice to freeze the big jumpers in the air so he can go under them, saving some health. He then uses Elect to shoot open the stone blocks as Guts' weapon is needed later in the later stages. He then continues platforming till he gets to the long spike room where it's obligatory to use the Magnet Beam to get over it. He then climbs the ladder and makes his way to the first Wily boss. The first Wily boss is Yellow Devil. The Yellow Devil boss works that a part of his body will go left and right depending on where in the fight you are, and he will put himself together. Then he will open up his eye, which is his weakness point. So without the select boss glitch, it's a long and tedious fight. But this did not stop Trevor. He fought Yellow Devil in the intended way. By beating Yellow Devil, Trevor then continues to Wily 2. Wily 2 starts out with a lot of scary pits and aggressive enemies, but this is not a problem for Trevor as he uses Buster for the first part of the stage, and then also for the Cutman refight. He then keeps Buster active till he gets to the Electman refight, where he changes to Cut. He then keeps Cut until he gets to the ladder fall, quote-unquote, section. He then makes his way down using Fireman's weapon, as it gives him a fire shield, quickly making work of all the small enemies in his path. He then reaches the bottom where he fights the copy robot. The copy robot always runs towards Mega Man and will randomly jump forward or backward when Mega Man shoots his weapon. Trevor beats the copy robot by using Fireman's weapons, shield and shots. After getting rid of the copy robot, it's on to Wily 3. Wily 3 is a pretty short stage, but not any breeze to go through. The stage is basically a big tunnel. Always reminds me of a sewer system. Trevor gets through the stage and gets to the boss without any problem. The boss in this stage is basically a group of robot bubbles. Their weakness is the stones in the middle, which you can throw using the Gutsman's weapon. There's a fun fact about this fight though. You do not have enough stones to kill the boss off, but you can dupe the stones by pressing B at the same frame as the last mini stones leaves the screen. By doing this, you can beat the boss with just the stones, otherwise you gotta finish them off with the Buster, which is what Trevor had to do as the dupe glitch was banned by Twin Galaxies. After the fight, Trevor then continues to the last stage of the game, Wily 4. Going into Wily 4, Trevor decides to skip the ammo refill and uses Elect to break the bottom tower block, and continues to walk the corridor and kill the shooters with Elect as well. He then uses Magnet to get to the platform where the teleporter is and presumes to do the refights. Refights are pretty straightforward, with Trevor using the Robot Master's weaknesses to quickly get rid of them. Then going into the last Wily fight, he changes to fire to attack Wily, He's missing a little bit of ammo for the fight, so he finishes the fight with Cut, which finishes his run, which he then submits to Twin Galaxies. In 2007, Trevor's run would be beaten by a runner called Bablo, with a time of 23:53. There was no surviving footage of this, however, but Bablo's run was pretty much the same as Trevor's run, but he managed to optimize his movement in general, which earned him the world record. Trevor would then come back the same year, getting a 22:58, still using the same route, but he had further optimized the movement and general gameplay. The time after Trevor's last run, there will be a great deal of progress made upon the tool-assisted parts of Mega Man 1 speedrunning. These improvements to the task were early magnet grab, improved magnet beam usage, screen wraps, fire zip, bomb zip, and Wily 2, 3, and 4 skip. In 2008, we got the first instance of the magnet grab skip, featured in Biscuit's task. To do this trick, you would need to be holding up and down on the NES controller at the same time, which is impossible if you haven't modified the NES controller. But if you use two controllers at the same time, you can pull the glitch off by using inputs from both of the controllers. If it was done with one or two controllers, didn't matter at all. This way of doing the trick was not allowed to do in runs at all. But something later down in the line made the early magnet grab a reality. We will return to that a little later. When these inputs are done, Mega Man will be zipped up a little bit from the ground platform, and when the player then continues to press the jump button, Mega Man will zip over to the other side of the screen. At least that's how it seems to the naked eye. What really happens is that Mega Man is on the edge of the left of the screen, where the wall property still exists. After that, the player has to turn right while jumping to appear back on the left side of the screen. If the player jumped high enough and pressed left quick enough, they will be able to stop Mega Man from zipping in the wall and then can tiptoe to get the magnet beam, being able to grab it, then go out again of the wall by either turning right or jumping. There's also a joke within the Mega Man speedrun community, where if you're unlucky and you get stuck inside of the magnet beam box, you'll be quote-unquote ND jailed, which is a reference to the Swedish speedrunner ND Swe, for when he got stuck in an AGDQ race, where he had to reset live for thousands of people. With this trick, the task could start with a Lackman and get the magnet beam earlier, saving time in the stages that one normally wouldn't have the beam in, including Guts and Cut. And now, a little bit about screen wraps. Screen wraps are zips that are done by putting Mega Man between the magnet beam and the top of the screen, pushing him to the end of the beam. This happens because Mega Man is wrapping over to the bottom of the screen, where the floor tile which is pushing him to the right. If this was done where there's no floor on the bottom of the screen, Mega Man would just die. But if there was a screen transition zone there, Mega Man would actually be transitioning through the screen like he would have done it normally, but he would have done it from the top of the screen. Fire and bomb skip works the same, but they use the property of the ladder that are in that screen, then executing a maneuver in the next screen, pushing Mega Man out of the wall or the floor. The Wily stages got a lot of new tricks in these tasks. Starting out with Wily 2 zips, which works the same way as the screen wraps and the early magnet grab, where you zip into the wall and you jump right then left to get high to hit the transition trigger. There is a way to shoot another magnet beam after you have screen transitioned, to skip the boss even faster, but this despawns the boss and the enemies in the next long screen, giving you a chance to softlock in the second boss room, if you don't perform the skip again with the extra magnet screen transition. There's also the screen wrap you can be doing in the long vertical part in Wily 2, where you do kinda the same glitch as the ladder in the early magnet grab, then zip out and then you can jump and do screen wraps, skipping most of the platforming rooms. Wily 3's task improvement, where the screen wrap where you zip inside of the wall and then continue to wrap the screens, will get to the long water corridor, where you then end up in the roof of that room and you're transitioning in the wrong place, You then must mash select to make Mega Man zip right, which eventually get him shot right into the boss room. Wily 4 on the other hand were totally destroyed by the Tassers. Besides some small magnet beam zips, there was a big find where if you shoot a magnet beam during the fight against Bomb Man, he throws a bomb and you mash start, Mega Man will start moving towards the top of the screen. Then he'll eventually hit a trigger, which is a teleporter that then zips him through all the boss rooms. Mega Man will then die, but will respawn after the boss fights, only having to fight Wily. The reason this happens is because when mashing start, it resets your knockback velocity, making Mega Man continuously hover upwards. Then hitting said teleporter and zipping till there's no room left for Mega Man to be in, reasoning for the death he takes. Keep these glitches in mind, as they will be mentioned later in the video. In 2009, the idea of making two categories for the game would arise. This is what spawned today's main categories, being glitchless, zipless, and all stages. All stages being the main category, which also focuses on beating the game as fast as possible. There's also a category called Ace, which is basically credits warps from Iceman stage, but that's nothing we'll be focusing on in this video. It was decided to allow zips, the pause glitch, and other stuff for the Speedrun's archive leaderboards, while Twin Galaxies was the home for the glitchless runs. The successor to Trevor's run would come in 2010, and the person who would beat Trevor's time was named Seth Glass. Seth is known for a lot of old Mega Man speedruns, but mostly Mega Man 2, but we'll tackle that in another video. Seth would then beat Trevor's run with over 2 minutes. His time was 20:30. He achieved this by using the select glitch on the bosses, bomb zip, the hard Wily 2 skip, Wily 3 zip, and the Wily 4 refight skip that was taken from the task and made possible for players to do in real time. This version of Wily 2 skip that Seth Glass did has 50% chance of Mega Man falling out of the wall again each time you jump, while the newer buffer strat, which is what is used in today's runs, is more consistent. We'll talk more about buffer strats later in the video. These glitches were banned in Twin Galaxies rulebook, but Seth submitted it to Speed Emerald's archive, which was growing strong at the time, and did not follow the same rules as Twin Galaxies. Seth would later in 2010 get a new time, a 2022, where he used Magnet Beam in a small corridor in Fireman stage. Then he also got the Fire Zip. But he gets a slow Wily 2 zip using a few extra jumps to get the transition, but also losing some time on having to set up the refight skip with bomb instead of Magnet Beam, as seen here. Seth's runs were the first glitch runs to ever garner significant attention. It would take 2 more years before the time would be improved. In 2012, a runner named Cool Kid would get the first sub 20 with a 1956. This run would be the run that people never thought they could beat. Cool Kid starts the run out much like Seth Glass had routed it, but improves on stages, and really especially in Iceman stage, where he gets the hard ice wrap setup for the first time ever. He also gets a big refill in Wily 2 and does both refight skips from the boss rooms, saving a bunch of time. Doing Wily 2 skip like this gives the player a 2-frame right and left input to set up the next Magnet Beam. There's an additional 1/8 chance of Mega Man just zipping back into the normal boundaries. It did this because it was more consistent to do. He also added a zip before the teleporter into Bauman's refight in Wily 4. Besides this, the run had the same route as Seth Glass's run. His run seemed almost unbeatable to most of the runners at the time. It would be silent for a year without any major things happening to the Mega Man 1 scene. In 2013, a speedrunner named Cypher was speedrunning Mega Man 2 and was going into Wily 2. He then comes over a strange glitch where if he press down and shoot at the same frame, Mega Man stays above the ladder just like the early Magnet Beam setup. In Mega Man 2, this glitch does not really save any reasonable amount of time. It wasn't long after this glitch was found that one of the active runners of Mega Man 1 found a surprising use for it. A runner from Norway named Nedua was the first person to test this glitch out, as Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 1 shares the same game engine. He went to Electman stage and did the glitch as he'd seen Cypher do in Mega Man 2. And it put him right into place as the old test setup did. This meant that Mega Man 1 finally had gotten a way to humanly do the early magnet beam grab, saving a lot of time where they could do cut first and then guts last. Nedua also found out that you can set up a falling zip in Wily 2, where if you do fire on the second ladder in the tower, you can zip outside of the tower and fall down, skipping the corridors completely, nicknaming the strat the Nedua Fall. After these finds, Mega Man 1 speedrunners finally saw hope about beating Cool Kids 1956. This spawned a bunch of new runners who picked up the fight to beat the world record at the time. In 2013, a Japanese runner with the name of Ohan got a 1948, beating Cool Kid's previous world record. In Ohan's run, he does the early magnet grab fire zip without using the ladder, and does dupes on the Wily 3 boss. Besides these notable strats, Ohan follows Cool Kid's strat through the game. Later in 2014, a runner with the name of Nedua, yup, the same guy who helped find the magnet grab strat, got on a really good run. He had been practicing the game since 2013 when he found the early magnet beam grab, and was ready to give it all to improve the time before him. So one night, he got a run where he got an early magnet grab and manages to do the hard ice screen wrap before the Yoku block room, skipping to go through the Yoku block room completely. He also did not use the ladders to do fire and bomb skip as shown here, which saves time instead of going to the ladder, climbing it, and then setting up the beam to then walk over it. He also showcased a new strat where if you collect the orb from killing Gutsman while you get frozen from Gutsman's jump, you can then grab the orb in the air, and with this animation in mind, he nicknamed this trick Ass Grab. Nedua also did the Wily 2 skips the same way that Seth Glass had done them, which gave him a 50-50 chance of getting thrown out of the wall per jump. This was done to get Wily 2 more consistent. He also added in the Nedua Fall in Wily 2's drop section, as shown here. After this, Wily 2 zips came back into the action, as they previously had been too hard to do, after Cool Kid did them in his run a year back. He would then finish his run and get a 1940, beating Ohan and Cool Kid's times. He would improve his run later that month to a 1935 using the same strats but more optimized. Later in 2014, a grind would start between a few Mega Man runners, going for world record. We're going to be talking about two of them, Cool Kid and Dexter. The friendly grind would start with Dexter getting a 1932. He accomplished this by doing a longer zip before the Yoku block room skip. He fails to set it up with the first beam, but gets a nice backup. He gets both corridor zips in the Iceman's boss corridor, which works the same way as the beam and the roof zips mentioned earlier in the video, traversing the boss rooms much faster. He does a long zip in the screen wrap in the screen before the fall down in Gutsman's stage, activating the screen transition quicker. He then gets one zip in the Gutsman boss corridor, messing up the second one. Dexter also goes for the Wily 2 zips, where he gets the first one and then also gets the screen transition inside of Gutsman's room. He then proceeds to go down into Electman's boss room, where he despawned him from doing the zip earlier, and does the zip from inside of the room, which is safer to do. Besides these things, Dexter's run was pretty much the same as Nedua's. He then finishes the run with a great Wily 4, just like the people before him. Dexter then falls onto his couch, being super happy about getting the world record. Later that year, Cool Kid would get on a run where he gets the Iceman long zip, first try, and one boss corridor zip. Fireman stage also works out very well for him, also getting the fire and bomb zip. In Wily 2, Cool Kid decides to not go for the Wily 2 zips, but gets the Nedua Fall first try. Cool Kid then finishes off with this run with a very good Wily 4, beating Dexter's time by 4 seconds. Dexter would then hit back with a slightly better run with improved stages, and really solid Wily 4 as well. Some small highlights would be the first try corridor sip and a fast refight skip. He would then improve the record with another 4 seconds. Cool Kid would then be back again, but now he was ready to remove a big chunk of time from the world record. Some highlights from this run were early magnet grab with exit on the top of the stage, clean sips in Iceman stage, and both of the Wily 2 sips with the boss room sips. These things help Cool Kid bring down the time by 14 seconds down to a 19:10. Cool Kid would then make history, getting the first sub 19. He achieved this by getting the sip before the ladder in Bombman stage and both of the Wily 2 sips, with the boss room sips. He then finishes off strong with the rest of the Wily stages. Dexter would join Cool Kid in the sub 19 club quite quick when he got on a run that wasn't at all as different as Cool Kid's, but went for no ladder setup on bomb sip and a few less Wily 2 sip jumps, getting a 18:53. This is where Dexter stopped and Cool Kid started his grind to bring down the game. Dexter ended his grind at the 18:50, but is still doing attempts now and then, so you guys should definitely give him a follow. Cool Kid then started his long grind to bring down the time, and he did. He brought it down by a lot. First, 18:45, cleaning up the sips and getting a decent Wily 2. Then, an 18:35, cleaning up the Wily stages and has an amazing Wily 3 boss. Just look at this! Then, an 18:31 that lost some time on a few stages, but then had one of the craziest Gutsman stages ever, ending it off with a great Wily 2 stage. Then, an 18:24 that had a really good start and then lost some time in Gutsman stage, but got a huge comeback in Wily 3 and Wily 4. Then, an 18:19 where he keeps a good pace through Robots and Gold's Wily 2, and then keeps a good pace all the way to the final Wily fight and delivers the first 18-1x. Then, we have this. He gets a really good run and then gets a really good Fireman stage, finishing off the run on Wily and getting an 18-14. Insane. It's literally insane. This guy can't be stopped. But when we all thought it was over, Cool Kid decided to go all in Mega May 2021 and improve the world record with another 3 seconds, getting an 18:11. This man is literally unstoppable. But Cool Kid was not done there. He wanted to go to 0x, and he did it, man. He got an 18:08, breaking the barrier down to the zeros. Really impressive. And that's where the world record stands today. Cool Kid is still doing attempts to this day, but has been busy with other amazing NES titles, such as Mario or other Mega Man titles. Maybe we will see more from him in the future, who knows? Thanks a lot for watching the video. Making this video has taken longer than I anticipated, but this last year has been straining on me mentally, and I'm very happy to finally be able to show you guys the final product. Thanks a lot to everyone who's helped me with the video and being supportive. Remember to take good care of your friends. With a little push, you can help them do absolutely anything. Feel free to share the video with your friends and leave a like. Subscribe even if you want to support my video creation even further. P.S. If you want to see more of me for any reason, you can find me over at my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/KaiserKrister.